Cross River State, under my watch, will be the first state to frog-leap from third world to first world. And that cannot happen unless I have your full support. First and foremost, I'd like to deal with the core issues of taxation. Therefore, in a 2020 budget, there will be a martial order and anti-tax agent that will ensure that the tax policy of this administration is implemented. No nation, no government, no entity will tax her people to prosperity. I have said it before, I will rather tax my brain than to tax my people. As part of the 2020 appropriation, all low-income earning people, civil servants who earn less than 100,000 naira, will be exempted from the payment of tax. Taxi drivers will only have a flat fee of 2,000 naira a month. Cyclists will have only a flat fee of 1,000 naira a month. The daily payment of 500 to 1,000 is hereby abolished. We would ensure that every single hotel owner that has less than 30 rooms hotel will pay no tax. They are also exempted from tax payment. Barbing salon owners, hairdressing, and all those small surviving agencies are hereby exempted from tax payment. We shall continue to legalize hawking, and we shall create hawking bays. The philosophy of a government is known by its sensitivity to humanity. The theme for this year's carnival is humanity, and we must do the show walking by demonstrating that we are sensitive to our very vulnerable and to the low. The tax regime will also become softer. As a way of encouraging investors to come to Cross River State, we must show that we have the capacity to create an alternative income as against putting a lot of pressure on young people, young women, young businesses, and medium-sized businesses that are trying to have their footing in Calabar and indeed Cross River State. This policy goes in a reverse when you take it against the income of the state. Ordinarily, one would have imagined that at this point, we should have a more aggressive tax drive. I do not believe in an aggressive tax drive. We are hoping from the investment in the Cross River Garment Factory, Cross River State Pharmaceutical Company, Cross River State Instant Noodles, Cross River State Slaughterhouse, Cross River State Feed Mill, Cross River State Seed and Seedling Factory, Cross River State Bag Factory, Cross River State Cocoa Processing Plant, Cross River State Chocolate Factory, Cross River State Rice Mill, Cross River State Toothpick. The list is endless, and more recently, the Cross River State Roofing Tile Factory and the Cross River State Block Making Factory. All of these factories are supposed to bring in an income in excess of about 380 billion. We are hoping also that most of the core investors that are coming in, particularly to take parcellation over the industrial park, are supposed to also pay in some forms. We're anticipating at least a sum of 12 billion naira from the allocation of plots on the Ayade Industrial Park. The cumulative income and expected inflows, which forms our capital receipts, is derived mostly from intellectual platform. It's a product of the last 3 years' aggressive investments, because by the close of Q1 of next year, all of them will be in a state of productivity, which accounts for the figure anticipated. So looking at the anticipated revenue, we only provided for 120 billion, which is expected to come from the federal allocation. There are sectors of the government, the sectors of this year's administration that will place very huge emphasis. One, health. We have a provision for 44 billion to cater to the health sector for 2020. So the Ayade Care Program, which we have started with 3 hospitals, one in each senatorial district, that provides for the zero-income earners, will fully be realized, as we have signed a contract with GE, and we hope that by April next year, the hospitals will become operational. And so there's a provision for equipment, there's provision for drugs, and we hope that by then we'll have also completed Calafam so that Calafam can supply the drugs. So our people will have free medical service by those who have. On the educational sector, we have set aside a sum of 38 billion naira to support education. That figure has come down from the previous year because of the deliberate progress that has been made. Education is at the fulcrum of any society. If you want to destroy any society, destroy her educational system. We have witnessed the decline in the quality of humanity in Nigeria, occasioned by the decline in the quality of education. Cross River State in 2020 has changed the Ministry of Education to Ministry of Quality Education. It will be the first state to have a Ministry of Quality Education. In Obudu, we have the British Canadian School, which provides for primary, junior secondary, and secondary education, with the hope to have a British Canadian university. We have in Biase the West African Continuous Teachers Training Institute. It will be the school where all teachers in West Africa will be trained, allowed to prepare students for WAEC or for GC or any examination whatsoever without himself first facing the same examination. The school will be resuming September as well. So we have a foundation for a new breed teaching style, and we have a foundation for the creation of new teachers with teaching skills using the ICT platform. It is against that background that I believe that in education, the 88 billion set aside allows us to have a gamut of opportunity to change the educational structure that has made Nigeria almost not functional. In terms of public utilities, particularly water, electricity, and roads, it's a critical aspect, but because we recognize the difficulty of achieving our cumulative obligations, we have decided to focus on key projects. The Calabar-Odukpani Junction dualization, if you drive through there from yesterday, you will see that the contractors are fully back to work, and that road will be completed. Construction is a major catalyst, and that's why we are proposing to build one city in each senatorial district in the year 2020. We did the social housing trial with the Bakassi social housing, which is now ready for commissioning after allocation. In view of all the key and essential elements that we need to drive, Cross River State will be creating new ministries. Example, a Ministry of Foreign Affairs that will be dealing with all our investors, that will be dealing with the export of our produce, that will be dealing with the export of our goods and services. That indeed, the only way for Cross River State will have an inflow of dollar without a dependence on the petrodollar is to have a foreign affairs department that will deal with the issues of Cross River State, issues of migration, and issues of trade. Remember also, job creation is a responsibility of government. But importantly, we must have assessment and valuation for each job that we have provided. So against that background, you would, as a policy trust, see the emergence of more ministries as you go into the details of the budget. Let me at this point, therefore, say in view of all that we have seen, and in view of all the analysis of our medium-term expenditure framework, in view of the progress made in the last budget, a new budget has been born. Therefore, the budget for this year is a sum of 1 trillion, 100 billion, 167 million, 507,000 naira, 9 kobo. That is the budget for this year. And the budget name is the budget of Olipotic Merieux-Maxes. The budget of Olipotic Merieux-Maxes is a budget that believes in a spiritual force, which is the third energy. Merieux-Maxes is the active growth of a young burial plant in extension the state. So Olipotic as it is, Merieux-Maxes as it is, it also has its sociological agglutination. So I believe that the budget of Olipotic Merieux-Maxes will catalyze into existence a great opportunity for us all to put our hands and legs on the paddle and spin it off. I believe that that budget figure, if you distill it into capital expenditure, which stands at 911 billion, representing 82.8% of the budget. And, of course, the total recurrent expenditure stands at just basically 17.2%. The implication of this is that 188 billion is set aside for recurrent expenditure and 911 billion set aside for capital expenditure. This is a very aggressive, this is a very audacious commitment that we continue to reduce recurrent expenditure and focus on capital expenditure. The analysis of the capital receipts have been given, indications on the source has been done. My philosophical conclusion is that Nigerians must come to the understanding that indeed any state whose budget is driven by the envelope size is limited in vision. There are two ways in business and in public sector management that you derive your budget. Either your budget comes as an expression of your envelope size or as an expression of your ambition. The prosperity agenda set for this state does not allow me the agony of an envelope budgeting. Remember, a budget of 1.1 trillion in practical terms looks inachievable. But the reality is that the intellectual value of our projects have not been commoditized into value. If you take that cost element, for example, the construction, the route design of the superhighway was put at 68 billion. But simply sitting with my engineers from Ministry of Works, with the support of Google Earth, we were able to draw a straight line between Garkin-Bekwara and Bakassi Deep Sea Port. With a straight line, only avoided only the portions on the national park. And we created a route and saved 68 billion and brought a cost of 68 billion to zero cost. That 68 billion is warehoused under a budget structure because it's an intellectual input that has not been put into Naira and Kobo, but the service has been provided. We have looked at the cost of contracting and subtracted from the reality of cost. And we are happy to announce that if you look at the cost of every of our projects, I am sure it's 1/10 of the cost if it was put into the public space. And so our budget prescribes the actual cost element, while the intellectual financing shunts the cost. Because the ambition so expressed allows us the latitude to drive without Kinoski to ensure that we guarantee that all the aspects of the budget so provided are driven. If we are frustrated and limited by our budget envelope, we will not have this prosperity that we have today. And finally, as part of the overall balance in calculation, the Cross River State Construction and Fabrication Academy has been provided for.